W5FC. I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
And does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin tonight's Skynet? This is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. My name is Tom. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. With priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? Please come now. It is a directed net, so please do not transmit without direction from that controller. That would be me this evening, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on this frequency, which is, in case you hadn't guessed, 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 1110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-OR station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Yeah, they are. Go to w5fc.org right now for the complete list, and remember to tell others about this popular net. net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. Let me tell you what they are. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, what you can see in the sky tonight, a featured constellation object or topic, recent astronomical discoveries, space exploration, space history, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and 73 rounds. Depending on how long the net goes, we will get to most, but not necessarily all of those rounds. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. Let's start with low power and short time check-ins. Yes, I know, low power is subjective. Please come now. Low power, short time, please come with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. I'm turning up the audio.
Juliet, Papa, November, Mark, and Oak Cliff, low power.
Okie dokie, error approved. KG5JPN, Mark, and Oak Cliff, low power, I got you down. Any other low power short time, please come now. Right. No problem there. Let's go to general check-ins. Anyone who would like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Please do so phonetically, just the call sign part.
This is Kilo Golf Echo India Uniform, high power, St. Paul, Texas.
This is November 5, Alpha Bravo Alpha, Andre in Dallas.
This is November 5, Bravo Bravo, Bill in Irving.
Kilo Echo 5, Echo November, Eric in Plano.
This is Kilo Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Carolyn in Louisville.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Quebec, Delta Quebec, Eric in Garland.
Okay, let me go ahead and get regular check-ins as opposed to the irregular check-ins. KG5EIU, David, over in St. Paul, I think, right. N5ABA, Andre in Dallas. N5BB, Mr. Bill in Irving. Eric, I think I got, oh man, I may have this wrong. KF5EN, Eric in Plano. Did I get your call right?
This is Eric, Kilo Echo 5, Echo November in Plano.
All right, thanks, Eric. Kilo Echo 5, Echo November. Over in Plano, I wrote it down right this time. Bear approves. KC5OZT, Miss Carolyn, Louisville, my neighbor. KF5QDQ, Eric in Garland, our amateur astronomer extraordinaire. Additional check-ins, please come now.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. Farmers Branch.
This is Kilo 5, Oscar Sierra Hotel, Russ, Farmers Branch.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony and Dallas, just in case.
I'm not used to this. This is light, but we'll do it. NT5TM, Tony and Dallas, I've got you. K5OSH, Russ in Farmers Branch, I got you. There was another station that got doubled, also in Farmers Branch. If that sounds like you, please come now.
Oh, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
ZBL, Mr. Bill, the other Bill, over in Farmers Branch. Oh, man, if I could just tell everybody about the cool, never mind. All right, additional check-ins over on RF. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name and where you're transmitting from. Fine. I'm going to Echolink. I know they're there and they care. Echolink only. Please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. If you have no microphone that works, just put something in the chat window and I will acknowledge you. Echolink only. We'll give you extra time. Please come now.
This is KB5UNZ, Kilo Bravo 5, Uniform November Z.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey J, near Weatherford.
November 5, Yankee, Echo Oscar. Stephen, San Antonio.
Kilo India 5, Bravo November Papa, Luis in Fort Worth.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Tango Hotel Bravo, Brent in Henrietta, Clay County.
Okie, let me see here. I've got KB2NZ Max. I didn't write down where you're at, but I got you down. I think it's Fort Worth. KG5BZWJ near Weatherford. N5YEO Stephen in San Antonio. K5JHA Chaz. He put something in the chat box. He just says he's in the chat box. KI5BNP Luis. Not sure where you're at, but I got you down. KE5PHB, Brett, I'm not sure where you're at. You normally check in, I think, on RF, but that's okay. Henrietta, he says. Brent says Henrietta. I got it. Okay. Any additional check-ins on Echolink?
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Juliet Tango, Gene from Carrollton, Texas.
Okay, I got W5G Golf Juliet Tango. I think you said Carrollton. Can I give your name? And please correct me whatever I messed up. That's okay. I'll continue on. Any additional check-ins, RF or any mode, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas.
At W5EBB, David in Dallas. Well, let's get the show on the road. Let's see here. Where do we start with? General announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come now.
Number Tango 5, Tango Mike.
TM, Tony, you're the guy. Go ahead.
Of course, most of my announcements from earlier are available at W5FC.org. I'll just recap a couple very quickly because I know you're going to cover the Afterglow movie. We have 2 public service events coming up soon that are looking for people. The Plano Balloon Festival is taking place next weekend, and they are short of volunteers. There's a link you can use to sign up over at W5FC.org. But your club, you know, your favorite club, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club, also needs your help on Sunday, October 7th for the Life Walk. Please reach out to KE5JIT at W5FC.org or sign up using the Contact Us form at W5FC.org. This is an easy event. You get to do stuff, but it's not too hard and there's not too much drama. And if you sign up before October 1st, they'll feed you lunch. It's 9 o'clock. You don't have to get up at 4 in the morning. Runs from about 9 o'clock on Sunday morning to about 3 p.m. So it's an easy, pleasant morning and early afternoon, a lot of fun, and we'd love to have your participation. We're really looking for at least 5 more operators. So please go to W5SC.org, use that Contact Us form, and get in touch. This is NT5TM.
Tony, does anyone need any fills? Which means, do you have any questions? Please come now. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet. Let's see. Let's move on. You can go ahead and go to W5FC.org. That's the club website. Whiskey 5 Fried Chicken. Whiskey 5 Foxtrot Charlie.org. Oscar Romeo George? Oh, jeez, I'm losing my ability to remember that. Golf. Yeah, that's what it is, golf. I hate golf. That's why I can't remember. George. easier. In any case, you can go there and find out additional information about the club. Everything there is updated almost hourly. So if you want to know the latest and greatest about HF propagation, things going on in the club, nets like this one and others, which are really cool, go there and you'll find the information as well as ways of joining us, which is pretty cool too. In case you didn't know, we have an Afterglow movie. Oh, wait a minute. Let me go ahead and check in the folks over on Facebook. Oh, my goodness, another one. There are folks that come and go, but they are there. I've got, in case folks don't know, non-hams that do check in on this net, or at least are there. I have Paul, I have Joe, I got Mina, I've got Brent, and I've got Jamie. I don't know where they're at or anything, but they have joined and are watching our net, which is every week on Saturday evening at 9 p.m. We do this net about astronomy, but we'd also be interested in you becoming an amateur radio operator, because that's the cool part, being able to talk to one another, amongst each other, short distance, long distance. There's even the ability to receive communications, well, not communications, but signals from, I don't know, Jupiter is a good one. There's Earth, Moon, Earth communications and all of that. There's plenty of things that are interesting from an astronomical standpoint. So we've had a number of people who have joined amateur radio because of this net, because it extends out beyond just amateur radio. So if you're interested, go to w5fc.org and find the link to send an email and find out more about that. We are really interested in additional and new hams in this hobby, and I think you'll find it fun. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet. Comment on tonight's Afterglow movie. No, I know you can't watch it on the radio, but you can watch it offline or online, as the case may be, and then you get to review the darn thing. So tonight's movie is Mission Mars from 1968. Here's the synopsis. Colonel Mike Blaswick, commander of the first U.S. manned mission to Mars, stared out the window of the cockpit. Suddenly there was a thump. He noticed a hammer and sickle plastered across the window. The red menace, he thought. It was further backed up by a spacesuit attached to the hammer and sickle insignia. With it was the name tag Vladimir Pupekov, and presumably Vladimir Pupekov inside said spacesuit. The dead Vladimir Pupekov was the guy inside. Something right here. Dead cosmonauts floating into U.S. spacecraft are a rarity, thought Blaswick. This is going to add to my paperwork today. A second thump came from the window. Another dead cosmonaut. It wasn't going to be a good day. Join us for the next Afterglow movie, Mission Mars, from 1968, tonight at 10:30 p.m. Be there or be square. Do we have anyone from Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas who would like to talk about when and where you can look through a telescope? Please come now. I have, let me go ahead and get additional check-ins. You can go to texasastro.org for additional information. I think that's the right page. Yeah, texasastro.org. By the way, I got my official membership thing in the mail this week. I am now a member of the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. I get a pin, and I get to be important. Well, maybe not important, but I get a pin with my name on it, so I'm really jazzed about that. Just to let you know, Texas Astronomical Society also hosts observing parties every Saturday night beginning at sunset and concluding at 10 p.m. Each week is a different location for observing, so make sure you get the complete details of the Saturday night wish to attend. Go to texasastro.org, select the calendar for a pull down on the complete details. So I want to go ahead and acknowledge Whiskey Golf Juliet Tango, Gene and Carrollton over on Echolink. I got you checked in. Okay, let's see. Next up, National Space Society events and activities. Bill, N5BB. What you got for us this evening?
This is N5BB. Well, not a lot because I was out of town on a business trip during the last National Space Society meeting, which was last Sunday, the 9th of September. So I can't give you any report on what happened there. I know what they were supposed to talk about. I believe it was Mars, but I could not be there, so I'm not sure what really happened. The next National Space Society meeting locally here is going to occur on the second Sunday of October the 14th, at around 3:30 p.m. in Irving, Spring Creek Barbecue, on Highway 183, across the street from Irving Mall. Other things which are coming up, space-related. World Space Week is the first week of October, around then, and there's tentatively was going to be an event at the Pro Museum on Saturday, October the 6th. Because I was not at the meeting last Sunday, I'm not sure if that will still occur, but there was tentatively going to be a National Space Society was going to be at World Space Week celebration on October the 6th at the Pro Science Museum. That was tentative. What else is going on? There is a National Space Roundup by National Space Society of North Texas on October the 27th, Saturday. This is at the Girl Scouts STEM Center of Excellence, which is a new facility on Whispering Cedars in Dallas, which is near the Boy Scouts facility there. That's all I've got, N5BB.
Hey, Bill, does anyone need any fills? Please come out. I'll add to that just a little bit. Remember that the next generation of amateur radio operators comes from first contact with amateur radio operators that provide a positive influence about the hobby. That means talking to kids and anybody else who will listen to you. Kids are going to listen to you more than anybody else. You know that. I know that. So consider volunteering and being a part of keeping amateur radio alive and healthy. That's what it's all about. Kids and adults and everybody else is important. So please keep that in mind. I won't lecture you. You know this is an opportunity where you get to work with kids and tell them about amateur radio. All right, any additional announcements or bulletins, please come now. Or check in. Okay, as net control this evening, I get to pick the topic, and I did. This is not one that's original for me, but it does tie into tonight's movie, Mission Mars, which is a fine, well, no, it's a terrible movie from 1968. If you didn't see it, that's okay. Check in with us at 10:30 p.m. and you can ask all the right and wrong questions about that fine film. So I thought, well, what the heck? Let's tie in the movie with a topic that is of some interest. How long does it take to get to Mars? Well, I found an article over at space.com from last year, November 14th of 2017, from Nola Red. And she says the following: if you wanted to pay a visit to the red planet, how long would it take? The answer depends on a number of things, ranging from the position of the planet to the technology that would propel you there. Let's examine a few of the most important points. How far away is Mars? To determine how long it will take to reach Mars, we must first know the distance between the two planets. And I do have, if you're on the W5FC.org website or watching the video, I'll go ahead and put that up right now. There is a diagram. Let's see here. I got to do 10 things at once, so I'm going to let me increase the picture size, and it shows Earth's orbit and Mars' orbit. Mars is the fourth planet from the Sun and the second closest to Earth. Venus is the closest, but the distance between the two planets is constantly changing as they travel around the Sun. The very closest that Earth and Mars would approach each other would be when Mars sat its closest point to the Sun, perihelion, and Earth is at its farthest, aphelion. This would put the planet only 33.9 million miles apart. However, this has never happened in recorded history. The closest recorded approach of the two planets occurred in 2003 when they were only 34.8 million miles apart. And the Hubble Space Telescope took a beautiful picture of that, by the way. The two planets are furthest apart when they are both at their farthest from the Sun on opposite sides of the star. At this point, they can be 250 million miles apart. The average distance between the two planets is 140 million miles. And as we all know, 140 million miles is like having 2.1 kids at home. Nobody has 2.1 kids. Well, a few families, but we don't want to discuss that. All right, so let's see here. I had some errant thing. It says light travels at approximately 186,282 miles per second. Therefore, light shining on the surface of Mars would take the following amount of time, or vice versa. Oh, this is, well, I'll come back to that in a minute. Of course, the previous although this isn't a problem, they put something in the middle of this thing. Hold on. Right, there's a little piece in here that they had involving the speed of light, but I'll come back to that in a little bit. The fastest spacecraft launched from Earth was NASA's New Horizons mission, which visited Pluto in 2015. In January 2006, the probe left Earth at 36,000 miles per hour. If such a probe traveled in a straight line to Mars, the time it would take to get to Mars would be: closest approach, 39 days. Closest recorded approach, 41 days. Farthest approach, 289 days. On average, 162 days. Okay, that's confusing, but it gets worse. The problem with the previous calculations is they measured distance between the two planets as a straight line. Traveling through the farthest passing of Earth and Mars would involve a trip directly through the Sun, while spacecraft must of necessity move in orbit around the solar system star. Although this isn't a problem for the closest approach when the planets are on the same side of the Sun, another problem exists. The numbers also assume that the two planets remain at a constant distance. That is, when the probe is launched from Earth while the two planets are at the closest approach, Mars would remain the same distance away over the course of the 39 days it took for the probe to travel. In reality, the planets are continuously moving in their orbits around the Sun. Engineers must calculate the ideal orbits for sending a spacecraft from Earth to Mars. Their numbers factor in not only distance, fuel efficiency. Like throwing a dart at a moving target, they must calculate where the planet will be when the spacecraft arrives, not where it is when it leaves Earth. Spacecraft must also decelerate to enter orbit around a new planet to avoid overshooting it. How long does it take to reach Mars? Depends on where in the orbits the two planets lie when the mission is launched. It also depends on technological developments and propulsion systems. According to NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center website, the ideal lineup for a launch to Mars would get you to the planet in roughly 9 months. The website quotes physics professor Craig C. Patton of the University of California in San Diego, and he says it takes the Earth 1 year to orbit the Sun, and it takes Mars about 1.9 years. Say 2 years for an easy calculation to orbit the Sun. Elliptical orbit, which carries you from Earth to Mars, is longer than Earth's orbit, but shorter than Mars' orbit. Accordingly, we can estimate the time it would take to complete this orbit by averaging the lengths of Earth's orbit and Mars' orbit. Therefore, it would take about 1.5 years to complete the elliptical orbit. In the 9 months it takes to get to Mars, Mars moves a considerable distance around its orbit and about 3/8 of the way around the Sun. You have to plan ahead to make sure that by the time you reach the distance of Mars' orbit, that Mars is where you need it to be. Practically, this means you can only begin your trip when Earth and Mars are properly lined up. This only happens every 26 months. That is, there's only one launch window every 26 months. The trip could be shortened by burning more fuel, a process not ideal by today's technology, Patton said. While technology can help to shorten the flight, NASA's Space Launch System, or SLS, will be the new workhorse for carrying up upcoming missions and potentially humans to the Red Planet. SLS is currently being constructed and tested, with its first flight planned for 2019. Robotic spacecraft could one day make the trip in only 3 days. Photon propulsion would rely on powerful laser to accelerate spacecraft at velocities approaching the speed of light. Okay. Philip Luden, a physics professor at the University of California in Santa Barbara, and his team are working on a directed energy propulsion for interstellar exploration called Deep In. The method could propel a 220-pound robotic spacecraft to Mars in only 3 days. See that? There are recent advances which take this from science fiction to science reality, Lubin said, at a 2015 NASA Innovative Concepts NIAC Fall Symposium. There's no known reason why we cannot do it. Okay. Kind of like really pie in the sky, but okay, there is a link to 2015 NASA Innovative Advanced Concepts, NIAC Fall Symposium. You can do NIAC and NASA as the two keywords in your search and read the paper itself. So here is what we've got here in the years past. How long did it take? Here's a list of how long it took several historical missions to reach the red planet. Their launch dates are included for the perspective. I'll go ahead and read them. Mariner 4, the first spacecraft to go to Mars in 1965, it took 228 days. Mariner 6 in 1969, 155 days, that was a flyby. Mariner 7 in 1969 took 128 days, it was a flyby. Mariner 9, the first spacecraft to orbit Mars, took 168 days, that was in 1971. Viking 1, the first U.S. craft to land on Mars in 1975, took 304 days. Viking orbiter lander in 1975 took 333 days. By the way, I think that's wrong. I think it was 1976 those two missions landed on Mars. I could be wrong. Mars Global Surveyor in 1996 took 308 days. Mars Pathfinder in 1996 took 212 days. Mars Odyssey, these are all orbiter, by the way. Mars Odyssey in 2001 took 200 days. Mars Express Orbiter in 2003 took 201 days. Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter in 2005 took 210 days. And then finally, Mars Science Laboratory in 2011 took 254 days. So I think it's kind of interesting. The path, which is every year and a half, ends up with an average about 220 days, something like that. But some were much longer than that. I would suspect the Viking 1 and Viking 2 missions, which were very important for orbiter and lander, and they were a lot heavier, went at more conservative routes and took almost a year to get there. That seems to make sense. I think the heavier the spacecraft is, the more conservative they are in the approach and orbit. Okay. With that, this is KE5ICX. I'm Net Control for tonight's Skynet. Does anyone have any questions that I may or may not be able to answer, or any additional check-ins? Please come now.
Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas checking in.
I got KG5-8BL, Patrick in Dallas. Welcome back. I've got you checked in. All right, let's see. I'll pause for any comments because I get the next section too. Anyone, any additional check-ins, please come now. All right, let's go ahead. Because I'm Net Control, I also have other segments in here, so I get to soldier on. This is from earthsky.org/tonight. You can go there and find out whatever is in the sky, including sky maps. Tonight I've got a link to Southwest After Dusk Nightfall on W5FC.org, or go to earthsky.org/tonight. Either one will give you the same information. And that is the following. Over the next 3 nights, or 3 evenings, September 13th through the 15th, watch for a waxing crescent moon to travel eastward through the zodiac. The moon pairs, oops, I forgot to put the picture up. The moon pairs up with the dazzling planet Jupiter on September 13th, and then moves between Jupiter and the red star Antares on September 14th. Finally, on the 15th, the moon sweeps to the north of Antares, the heart of the constellation Scorpius, the Scorpion. The featured sky chart, which I've got displayed in hot length, are in the northern latitudes. Even so, you can use the moon to locate Jupiter and Antares from virtually anywhere worldwide. From the southern hemisphere, Antares appears more directly above Jupiter rather than to the left of Jupiter, but then people in the southern hemisphere will see Jupiter traveling upward rather than sideways during the next several nights. Jupiter is a giant planet of our solar system, whereas Antares is an extremely rare supergiant star. Our companion moon appears as a giant in the Earth's sky because it's so much closer to us than either Jupiter or Antares. Jupiter is now 2,300 times further away from Earth than is our moon. Antares lies way out there, around 6 million times Jupiter's distance. Is about 11 times Earth's diameter, but this figure doesn't really adequately convey Jupiter's great size. Square the diameter, 11 by 11, which equals 121, to find out Jupiter's surface area is about 121 times greater than Earth's surface area, and then cube the diameter, which is 11 times 11 times 11 for 1,331, to find out Jupiter's volume is some 1,331 times greater than Earth's volume. Since Galileo first watched Jupiter's 4 major moons, Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto, in the early 1600s, astronomers noted how very quickly these moons orbited Jupiter. These swift-moving moons let astronomers know right off the bat that Jupiter is way more massive than Earth. In fact, astronomers are able to use these moons to calculate Jupiter's mass. Yes, Jupiter is large, yet our sun's diameter is about 10 times greater than that of Jupiter. That means the sun has 100 times, 100 times, about 10 times greater than that of Jupiter. That means that the sun has 100 times the surface area, or 10 times 10, 100, and 1,000 times the volume. 10 times 10 times 10 equals 1,000 of Jupiter. That makes the sun's volume some 1,331,000 times greater than Earth. Wow. Let's keep going. In contrast to the red supergiant star Antares, our sun is no more size than a spark from a bonfire. It is estimated that Antares may have a diameter of 600 to 800 suns. We'll let the inquiring reader figure out the surface area and volume of Antares relative to our sun. So the bottom line is that over the next several days, from September 13th to 15th, let the moon guide your eye to the king planet Jupiter and the red supergiant star Antares. Normally I'd go ahead and read the U.S. Naval Observatory and what you can see in the sky this week, but my voice is tired, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the next section. A future constellation or object, Miss Carolyn, KC5OZT. Would you like to discuss our constellation this week? This is KE5ICX. And that is yours, Miss Carolyn.
Thank you, Tom. And last week we discussed Cepheus, so tonight I thought we would discuss his wife, Cassiopeia, a vain and boastful queen. And it's easily recognizable because it has a distinctive W shape. It's the 25th largest constellation. And we covered the myth a little, last week, but basically, in case you didn't hear it, she was vain and she boasted she was more beautiful than the sea nymphs. And Poseidon, who happened to be married to one of the sea nymphs, he decided to punish her. So he sent Cetus the whale, or a sea monster, that's another constellation, to ravage the coast of the kingdom. Cepheus asked an oracle for help, and she told him to, they had to sacrifice their daughter Andromeda, another constellation nearby, to the sea monster. Secondly, they did, leaving her chained to a rock for the monster. But she was saved in the last minute by Perseus, another constellation. He happened to be passing by and rescued her. They later married, and at the wedding, though, former suitors appeared and claimed, one of them claimed he was the only one who had the right to marry her. So a fight ensued, and Perseus, who was outnumbered, he used the head of Medusa, the monster. You know, if you remember your mythology, one look at Medusa's head turns people to stone, and it turns them to stone. However, Cepheus and Cassiopeia, they didn't look away in time, so they were also turned to stone and killed. Poseidon placed the couple in the sky, and Cassiopeia, the myth goes, was condemned to circle the celestial pole forever and spends half the year upside down in the sky as punishment for her vanity. For some of the parts of the country, it never sets, by the way. Of course, it's easy to spot Cassiopeia. It's a W-shaped asterism. It's formed by, from left to right, epsilon, delta, gamma, alpha, and beta. We'll look at three of these. Beta is a dwarf Cepheid, and together with the stars Alpheratz, that's in Andromeda, and Algenib in Pegasus. Beta, or it's also known as Cap, was known as one of the three guides. Three bright stars marking what's called equinoctial color. It's an imaginary line from Cap to Alpheratz to the celestial equator. Marks the point where the sun crosses it at each spring and autumn equinox. The central star in the W shape is Gamma, currently the brightest star in the constellation, actually. And it rotates very rapidly, and as a result of this, it's got a decreasing disk of lost mass and material around the star. But it also played a part in the space program. It has the nickname Navi, N-A-V-I, which it got from the astronaut Virgil Ivan Grissom. As you see, Navi is Ivan spelled backward. And this star was used as a navigational reference point by astronauts. And the final star is Rho, R-H-O, Cassiopeia. A yellow hypergiant, very rare. Only 7 are known in the Milky Way galaxy. And one of the most luminous stars known. It undergoes enormous outbursts about every 50 years. And in 2000 to 2001, the star ejected about 10,000 Earth masses in one of these outbursts. And actually, Rho is suspected to already have exploded as a supernova because they calculate it used up its nuclear fuel. But if this is the case, the light from the explosion hasn't reached us yet. It may take thousands or millions of years. I'm not sure. Cassiopeia has some nice deep sky objects. The first one we'll look at is an open cluster, M52, magnitude 5 and visible in binoculars. And it has the brightest stars, or two yellow giants, magnitude 7.8 and 8.2. You need a scope, of course, for that. And then the next object is M103, another open cluster, about 10,000 light years away, with 172 stars at least. And its claim to fame is it was the very last object that Charles Messier ever entered into his catalog. And then we have our next object is Cassiopeia A, a supernova remnant. It's notable for being the brightest radio source in the sky and the strongest radio source outside the solar system, and was one of the first radio sources discovered in as far back as 1947. The cloud of material ejected is about 10 light years across, and this explosion occurred about at a distance of about 11,000 light years away. And the first light of the supernova is believed to have reached us about 300 years ago. And now we'll move on to number 4, to NGC 281. Its popular name is the Pac-Man Nebula. If you're old enough to remember that game. An H2 region, a large gas cloud. And star formation has recently taken place. And it has a large amount of ionized atomic hydrogen lit by the ultraviolet light of these young stars. And obviously it got the name Pac-Man Nebula because of its resemblance to the video game character. Star clusters, NGC 7789. It's a beautiful one called the White Rose Cluster. It's magnitude 6.7 and visible in binoculars. It was discovered by Caroline Herschel in 1783, and it was sometimes known as Caroline's Rose, but usually the white rose because the loops of the stars in it seem to resemble the pattern of rose petals. Okay, and then another open star cluster, NGC 457. It's sometimes referred to as the Owl Cluster, and after the movie, the E.T. Cluster, due to its resemblance to the movie character. And If you look at it, two bright stars are magnitude 5, 5-1, and magnitude 7, 5, that's the Greek letter 5, P-H-I, 5-2. They can be imagined as eyes, and seventh object, NGC 663. Guess what? It's another open cluster, a young one, about 400 stars, and can reportedly be detected with the unaided eye. Although they recommend a telescope for the best viewing. The brightest members can be viewed with binoculars, and it's listed at magnitude 7.1, and some estimate it to be brighter. And this cluster, though, appears to be located in front of a molecular cloud, but they're not associated, they're just line of sight. But the cloud has the effect of blocking background stars from the image of the cluster. Although I didn't send pictures of them, there's at the bottom of the chart I marked a faint pair of dwarf spheroidal galaxies, NGC 185 and 147, and these are actually satellite galaxies of M31, the Andromeda galaxy. So Cassiopeia, vain as she was, she has some mighty fine objects in her and some very interesting stars. So take a tour through her and you will definitely enjoy it. And unless there's any questions, Tom, I'll turn it back to you. K50ZT.
Hey, Miss Caroline, anyone have any questions? Please come out. And she's doing that. What is it she's doing? She's going down and doing her... Oh, I know. She's on her family reunion this weekend. So she's somewhere in Austin, somewhere doing her thing with family members. So, let me see here. She did send a couple of articles. I'll go ahead and read a little bit of these. First one is, astronomers witness birth of a new star from a stellar explosion. The explosion of stars known as supernovae can be so bright that they outshine their host galaxies. They take months or years to fade away, and sometimes the gaseous remains of the explosion slam into hydrogen-rich gas and temporarily get bright again. But could they remain luminous without any outside interference? That's what Don Milisevich, an associate professor of physics and astronomy at Purdue University, believes. He saw 6 years after SN 2012 AU exploded. We haven't seen an explosion of this type at such a late time scale remain visible unless it had some kind of interaction with hydrogen gas left behind by the star prior to the explosion, he said. But there's no spectral spike of hydrogen in the data. Something else was energizing this thing. End quote. As large stars explode, their interiors collapse down to the point at which all their particles become neutrons. If the resulting neutron star has a magnetic field and rotates fast enough, it may develop into a pulsar wind nebula. This most likely is what happened to SN 2012 AU, according to findings published in Astrophysical Journal Letters. We know that the supernova explosions produce these types of rapidly rotating neutron stars, but we never saw direct evidence of it at this unique time frame, Milosevic said. This is the key moment when the pulsar wind nebula is bright enough to act like a light bulb, illuminating the explosion's outer spectra. SN 2012AU was already known to be extraordinary and weird in many ways, although the explosion wasn't bright enough to be termed a superluminous supernova. It was extremely energetic, long-lasting, and dim to a similarly low light curve. Which predicts that if researchers continue to monitor the sites of extremely bright supernova, they may see similar transformations. I'm going to skip to the next article. Evidence of early planetary shakeup. Astronaut pair is a smoking gun indicating an earlier altercation amongst the giants. This comes from ScienceDaily.com. This is a super cool website. You want to go there, ScienceDaily.com, and get the latest and greatest on all this. Scientists at Southwest Research Institute studied an unusual pair of asteroids and discovered that their existence points to an early planetary rearrangement in our solar system. Bodies called Patroclus and Menoetius are targets of NASA's upcoming Lucy mission. They're around 70 miles wide and orbit around each other as they collectively circle the sun. They are the only large binary known in the population of ancient bodies referred to as the Trojan asteroids. The two forms of Trojans orbit at roughly the same distance from the sun as Jupiter, one swarm orbiting ahead of and the other one trailing the gas giant. The Trojans are likely captured during the dramatic period of dynamic instability when skirmishes between the solar system's giant planets, that would be Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, occurred, said SWE Institute scientist Dr. David Nesborny. He is the lead author of the paper, Evidence for Very Early Migration of the Solar System Planets to the Patroclus Menoetius binary Jupiter Trojan. You try and say that once. Published in Nature Astronomy. This shakeup pushed Uranus and Neptune outwards, where they encountered a large primordial population of small bodies thought to be the source of today's Kuiper Belt objects, which orbited at the edge of the solar system. Many small bodies of this primordial Kuiper Belt were scattered inwards, and a few of them were trapped as Trojan asteroids. The issue with the solar system evolution model, however, has been when it took place. Period. In this paper, scientists demonstrate that the very existence of the Patroclus Menoetius pair indicates that the dynamic instability among the giant planets must have occurred within the first 100 million years of the solar system formation. Recent models of small body formation suggest that these types of binaries are leftovers from the very earliest times of our solar system, when pairs of small bodies could form directly from a collapsing cloud of pebbles. Observations of today's Kuiper Belt show that binaries like these were quite common in ancient times, says Dr. William Buffkey, director of the SWRI Space Studies Department, who co-authored the paper. Only a few of them now exist within the orbit of Neptune. The question is how to interpret the survivors. Instability been delayed by hundreds or millions of years, as suggested by some solar system evolution models. Collisions within the primordial small body disk would have disrupted these relatively fragile binaries, leaving none to be captured in the Trojan population. Early dynamical instabilities would have left more binaries intact, increasing the likelihood that at least one would have been captured in the Trojan population. The team created new models that show the existence of the Patroclus and Noeticus binary strongly indicates an earlier instability. And finally, this early dynamical instability model has important consequences for terrestrial planets, particularly regarding the origin of large impact craters on the Moon, Mercury, and Mars that formed approximately 4 billion years ago. The impactors that made these craters are less likely to have been flung in from the outer regions of the solar system. This could imply they were made by small body leftovers of terrestrial planet formation processes. This work underscores the importance of Trojan asteroids in illuminating the history of our solar system. Much more will be learned about Patroclus Lineotis binary when NASA's Lucy mission, led by SWR scientist and paper contributor Dr. Hal Levinson, surveys the pair in 2033, culminating a 12-year mission to tour both Trojan swarms. Wow, that was tough to read, but at the same time fascinating because we keep extending further and further out into our solar system and learning so much more. This is KE5ICX Net Control for tonight's Skynet. I'll go ahead and take additional check-ins before we move to space exploration and space history. First off, any additional check-ins, please come now. All right, I have one station, K5KOP in Crandall. Can I get your name again? I got to turn you up. Your volume is light.
Philip from Crandall.
All right, I think it's Philip, Kilo 5, Bravo, Oscar, Papa in Crandall. Did I get that right, Philip? Time is charmed. Kilo 5, Kilo Oscar Bravo. Philip and Crandall, did I get it right? Philip, I should know this call. You've checked in before, but did I get it right? I lost you a little bit, but I think that's right. K5KOB, Philip and Crandall. And I'll correct it later if I messed it up, which I might have. Okay, let's see here. Any additional check-ins before I move on?
India 5, Bravo, Kilo X-ray.
Kilo India 5, Bravo, Kilo X-ray. Could I get your name and location, please? I have two check-ins. KI5BKX. Could I get your name and location, please? We've messed up the call. Additional check-ins come now. on to space exploration and space history. Tony, NT5TM, what do you have for us this evening?
I've got lots of stuff, but I'll try to get through it quickly. In space news, the period of active listening for the Opportunity rover, 15 years old this year, on Mars began this Wednesday. The global dust storm appears to be subsiding, and the atmospheric capacity has reached a point where the battery should be able to charge. So the period of actively trying to wake the rover up and listen to it, which should last for 45 days, began this week. KG5MBT alerted me to an interesting story. The National Solar Observatory in the town of Sunspot near Alamogordo, New Mexico, is closed for no known reason until further notice. The FBI simply showed up this past Thursday and told everyone to leave. Their website thanks everyone for their patience, but there's no explanation for why this is happening. Less scary news, but in news that's likely to cause UFO sightings, NASA successfully tested a giant balloon breaking an all-time balloon altitude record. The balloon, known as the Big 60, is thinner than saran wrap, but has actually been used several times. They must have to be extremely careful when they set it up. Making the news for having set an altitude of 159,000 feet, which is just really amazing. It's very hard to study that part of the atmosphere. It's too high for airplanes and too low for spacecraft. New Horizons continues to approach its second target, the Kuiper Belt object Ultima Thule. Well, that's its nickname. It's very hard to study this object. It's really too dim to see much about through earthbound telescopes. To try to assess just how big it is, whether it might have rings or a moon, it's been necessary to watch it pass in front of stars. This is called an occultation. Since Ultima Thule is tiny and far away, the occultations are tiny and hard to see. NASA worked with amateur and professional astronomers in the distant nation of Senegal just recently to observe a star occultation by Ultima Thule. This was difficult but rewarding. It suggests that it may be a double planet system, or perhaps very potato-shaped, or two bodies in close orbit, similar to Pluto and Charon. If you don't follow Buzz Aldrin on Twitter, it might be worth doing so. He wished the moon good night this week and reminded us all that it was the best bouncy house ever. In the world of history, we have some good anniversaries, both recent and in the distant past. That was an awesome quote. I think that's a great way to describe the moon. It's got to get the human perspective, not just the machine one. A 30-year-old rocket said goodbye this weekend. The extremely successful Delta II rocket successfully launched NASA's ICESat-2. That was the final flight of the Delta II. It is now retired. September 8th, 2016, NASA launched OSIRIS-REx. This cool name is for a cool mission. You can head over to asteroidmission.org. Its job is to go to asteroid Bennu this summer and fall and return samples to us in the 2020s. OSIRIS-REx has caught sight of Bennu and has begun science operations. It will be some years. I believe the predicted return is 2024 before we get any samples. September 9th, 1975, the Viking 2 lander and orbiter were launched. These were amazingly flexible spacecraft given the technology of the time. When they arrived at Mars to discover a global dust storm, they were able to wait because they were programmable computers rather than, the orbiters were equipped with programmable computers rather than simple timers as most earlier probes had featured. the Soviet Union launched Luna 2, also known as Lunik 2. Both the U.S. and the Soviet Union were occupied with trying to send probes to orbit, fly by, or impact the moon, and it was very hard. NASA's Ranger spacecraft 1 through 6 all failed in various alarming ways, as did most of the Soviet Luna probes. But Luna 2 made it, becoming the first human-built object to impact the moon. On September 12th, I guess that was just a great day in space history. Gemini 11, I mistyped the Roman numeral. Gemini 11 was launched, featuring Pete Conrad and Richard Gordon. This was the 9th manned spacecraft of the Gemini program. It flew from September 12th to 15th, 1966, and it was a smashing scientific success. On September 12th, 1962, now this one you're going to have to search for, you're going to want to watch it, John F. Kennedy gave his famous speech at Rice University. Well, what was so important at Rice University? He'd been visiting NASA, and he gave a famous speech that included the line, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the others, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." Space exploration, both with and without crews, continues to be hard, but continues to be worth doing. This is NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony, and thanks for passing all that along to me ahead of time so I could put pictures up. I appreciate it very much. This is E5ICX and net control for tonight's Skynet. We've reached the end of everything this evening. I'm not going to give satellite passages because my voice is dead, man. I'll take additional check-ins if you would like to join us this evening. Please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. I'll put you on the list.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman on Echolink.
I have KF5 PDS, Miss Billy over in Sherman. Any additional check-ins? Final call. Okay, let me go ahead and give everybody who checked in, let's see, 28, 29. I got 29 hams and others, for that matter, participating on the air, including myself. Thanks to all of you who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the DARC nets. Really, it's fun. You think it's not. It is. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls following the net, or send an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Till next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray Tom, and I'll be closing tonight's net at 22:22 local time and returning the repeater to amateur use. Step 3, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And don't forget, in 8 minutes, we'll be discussing the movie Mission Mars from 1968. 7-3, everybody, and good night.
Key 5ICX and 5BB.
Oscar Bell, go.
Hey, check your email. I just sent you a message to your, what is it, your Yahoo address? That's exactly right. I have found the band for our movie tonight, and you can listen with the first link to the theme song, which was released on Decca Records, and the age range of the kids that did it was 17, 19. And the guy that was responsible for it is the director of the music department of a Queens, Nevada, maybe that's New York, junior high school. You got to listen to it. They also recorded the Girl Scout song. Check out the email, InsideBB.
Oh, no. I should have figured. All right, I got to powder my nose. I'll be back in 7 minutes. Thanks, Bill. K5I6.
This movie is the epitome of a B movie. I mean, it's just got, it's got everything inside BB. K5KOB inside BB. Your audio is incredibly weak. We can barely tell you're talking.
You're going to do the Boy Scout Jamboree on the air, aren't you?
Probably. Probably. This is Inside BB. No idea what you're saying. You're going to do something about your audio. We aren't going to be able to answer you. Inside BB.
update. Completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly. Afterglow Movie Net.
Boy, I get to be net controlled yet again. This wasn't by choice. It just worked out that way. This is KE5ICX. Does anyone need to use the repeater or shout evil things? Please come out.
BB, Tom, the first link I sent you was incorrect. I just resent it with the correct email to the song and the poster inside BB.
Thank you, Bill, and I will check it out. We all know we love horrible movies, and we like good movies, but we like horrible movies even less. Alright, this is KE5ICX. I get to be net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. Why not? Been on. I only had the hat trick, what was it, 3 years ago, where I had to do, oh, are you ready for this? I did NCS for Saturday night. I used to be NCS on Saturday night at 6:30 to 7. Then I did TechNet from 7 till 8. And then at the time we had our MCOMnet, which used to be on Saturday nights. So I went from 8 till 9 because net control didn't show up. And then I did from 9 until 10:30 Skynet. That's the longest I've ever done any nets on 2 meters, or any time actually, now I think about it. So this comes in number 2. But that's okay. I don't mind. Pretty cool so far. So, this is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. Tonight's movie that you should have gotten an email for is Mission from 1968. If you didn't get an email or you're not aware of how you can find out what the movie is without staying up until midnight to find out the next movie, which you will at midnight tonight, is the following. All you have to do is, if you have a Facebook account, go to Afterglow Movie. That's one word. Remember, Afterglow Movie Net, I think. Now, I can't remember. I'm getting slap happy. Or send an email to nets@w5fc.org, nets@w5fc.org, or send me a personal email at Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray, KE5ICX@yahoo.com, and say you're interested. And I'll put you on the email list if you're not into that social media stuff. At the end of the net, and sometime during the week, I'll send you an email with whatever the latest movie is and the link. Usually these movies, nearly all of them, are free. If they are not, I will send you a link in the rare case that they are not. And whatever it costs or somehow you must be able to see. We do movies which are generally public domain films, which means that they are available for free. If they are not, we'll send you to Netflix or one of the other premium services that are available. But generally speaking, we try and do the freebies because they're free. Mars was one of those films. It's free and available on YouTube. That's generally where we go for most of our films. And I'll tell you a little bit about the movie first, and then we'll get started. You don't necessarily have to have seen this film. In fact, it doesn't matter if you've seen this film. If you did see the film, my sympathies. For those of you who didn't, my congratulations. In either case, you can make comments about missions to Mars. I get all my vital information from Wikipedia, and this is what they say about this film. It says Mission Mars is a 1968 American science fiction film. It was produced by Everett Rosenthal with a screenplay by Mike Sinclair. Not the Lake, but Mike. From a story by Audrey Weisberg and directed by Nick Webster. Big names. No, they aren't. The United States launches 3 astronauts on a mission to land on Mars at around the same time the Soviet Union launches its own secret Mars mission. On their way to Mars, the American astronauts encounter the drifting bodies of 2 Soviet cosmonauts. That actually comes much later. It sounds like this is really exciting and good things are happening. No, it takes a long time to get to this point. Who they realize must have been buried in space. The American spacecraft lands safely on Mars, albeit further away than the planned from its accompanying supply capsule. The astronauts set out towards the supply capsule, leaving a line of balloons to mark their trail. Discover that there is a hole burned into the supply capsule's hull and that the balloons have been removed. They also discover a third cosmonaut standing frozen in a state of suspended animation, who revives once brought inside the American spacecraft. The astronauts then encounter a strange creature called the Polarite, which threatens them, but which they neutralize by firing beam weapons at its single red eye. How of them. Ground controllers advise the astronauts the Polarites seem to be robots controlled by an external influence. An alien sphere appears on the Martian surface when Duncan, one of the astronauts, approaches the sphere. He is dragged inside by a mysterious force and killed. The sphere is emitting a force which prevents the American spacecraft from taking off. An attempt to escape by using booster rockets from the supply capsule fails. The cosmonauts tells the Americans that the sphere can be deactivated by destroying a disk inside it. Nick Grant, the American geologist astronaut, volunteers to do so and succeeds at the cost of his life. Colonel Mike Laiswick, the surviving American astronaut and the Soviet cosmonaut, escaped Mars in an American spacecraft and learned that Vlasic's wife is pregnant. The end. This is KE5ICX, and I will be net control for this movie, Mission Mars. I will now take check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, your name. You'll let me know where you're from, or more importantly, tell me, did you see the movie? So, call sign, name, did you see the movie? Most important.
This is N5BB, Bill and Irving. I saw the movie and researched the band.
If I can, I guess, laugh along. NT5TM.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Pearl in Dallas. I did see the movie.
Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Carolyn in Louisville, and I did see the movie.
Golf 5, Papa, Mike November, James, Fort Worth, I saw the movie.
November 5, Hotel Yankee 5, Simon Irving. I think I saw the movie.
Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas. I experienced the movie.
And get those check-ins. I've got N5, BB in Irving. Yeah, he saw it. NT5TM, Tony Dallas. No, but he'll have comments. KF5 TSK, Burl, Dallas. Yep, he saw it. KC5OZT, Miss Carolyn Louisville. My neighbor, yeah, she saw it. KG5PMN, James in Fort Worth. Yes, he saw the movie. You have a lot of static, so I would recommend bump up power if you can for any discussion. Just a good idea. N5HYP, Tom in Irving, he reluctantly says he saw the movie. You need to bump power too. Sorry, guys. James and Tom, bump power. W5UEB, David in Dallas. Yep, he saw the movie. Additional check-ins come now. All right, don't be shy. I'll add additional check-ins, and you'll get comments along the way. How this thing works is this way. We generally and will talk about the plot. That's where we start. We talk about the plot. Is the movie viable? Did it make any sense? Thinking about the time period that it's in. The second round, we talk about the characterization. How believable were the characters? Did it make any sense? Was it stupid? Was it brilliant? Was there accidental, ingenious, or dumb things that happened? The third round, which usually ends up later in the evening, is the technical aspects of the film. And generally the fourth round has to do with anything that may be of interest or otherwise discussed. The best thing about this net is that everybody has comments that everybody else can build upon. It is okay to comment about a previous round. If you've got additional comments, that's fine. That's the fun of this thing, is talking about a movie that you may not have seen before, but you found interesting, despicable, or otherwise passable? Passable being passable that it was good, or passable meaning that you should have not watched it. All right, and the good news is Net Control gets to comment on everybody else's comments, which means even if I didn't see the movie, which I did, I can probably pass as though I did. So let's start at the top. Let's go with N5BB, November 5, bravo, bravo. Bill, what did you think of the plot?
There was a plot. This is N5BB. The plot was to drive us crazy. The plot was a mission to Mars. I don't know why they were going to Mars exactly. They were just doing it just for the heck of it, I guess. There were two plots. So to quote the movie poster, and I sent a bunch of you an email, and I corrected it. So look at the second email I sent to many of you tonight. And the second email has the link to the theme music and the movie poster. I'm going to quote from the movie poster. The men stake their lives on the unknown. Their women gamble their love on their return. So there's two plots in this. There's the men going out to try to get rid of the nasty creature on Mars, and there's the women waiting for them to return. So, oh, silly. Anyway, the plot was silly because just from nowhere these alien creatures appear without any rhyme or reason. Who knows where they came from? And they seem to mysteriously appear out of nowhere. These big circular things that look like aluminum foil blobs. And then they open in a very silly way. Doesn't look like any real thing you'd ever build, the split in the middle. And then out comes these unbelievable aliens that don't really, they're not believable. So I thought the plot was silly. I don't understand many things about the plot. Mike's, that's Darren McGavin, the famous actor, his hair is too perfect. That's the first problem with the whole plot right there. His hair is too perfect. And to prove it, they gave him a haircut on the spacecraft. And even though they stated there's no problem with the weightlessness, they said that on the radio, when they gave him a haircut and his hair did not just float out in space. Nobody floated in space because they didn't care about science. Radio signals from Mars to Earth took a couple of seconds rather than 4 to 24 minutes each way. As they approach Mars, it's fake. G-forces don't exist. Spacesuits aren't sealed. In other words, they have an oxygen bottle, but their skin is exposed to the Martian low-pressure atmosphere. It makes no sense at all. So I think the plot was stupid. N5BB.
Wait a minute, you can't diss Kojak on all of this, or his hair, and that's another round. You are out of order, sir. I will not allow it. We'll come back to you later. We may put you at the bottom of the list. Or not, I don't know. Haven't decided. but I am Net Control. This is KE5ICX. I'm Net Control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net Mission Mars from 1968. Yes, the same year that they came out with 2001: A Space Odyssey. This thing came out at the same time. Mission Mars, fantastically something film. NT5TM, Tony, what did you think about the plot? And you can include Aaron on this.
Feeling very glad we didn't see it, because it does sound like a plot to damage relationships and make people unhappy. That's the plot, I think. I'll be sure to say this to Brenda when she gets back from her trip, but I am impressed at how coherent Skynet controls can stay. It's kind of amazing. Still glad we didn't see it. NT5TM.
Tony, yeah, you said you didn't see it. I want you to listen closely to all of the plot details, or lack thereof. Unknown alien motivations, technological improprieties and impossibilities, bad special effects. Everything is there, so your worst nightmare on a film. Just think about it and just extrapolate forward and just substitute the words Mission Mars into all of it. And it was in color. In color. All right, listen close. Here comes up Burl, KF5TSK. I know he has something to say about this fine plot. Go ahead, Burl.
What plot? I didn't see a plot. Everything about this movie, they're taking off, they're laying down, but they're bouncing up and down because it's such a rough ride, and it's like, oh, no gravity on leaving there. Well, isn't that wonderful? Bill mentioned the music. I mean, it was horrible music all the way through, and it was like, the same guy who was doing music on Earth was also doing music for the aliens. So many things were, the spacesuits that, they're walking around with, supposedly oxygen masks, but their suits aren't sealed. They're not spacesuits. I would think, if I saw this movie in the 60s, I would have thought it was, really a poor movie. One other thing is that I remember during the 60s that, it was, really exciting in school to sit and watch all of the space launches, Gemini, Mercury, even Apollo, and for this to come out at that time, it's really disappointing. Another thing I thought about is everything was done so poorly. I couldn't figure out what they spent to make this movie because everything was just made up. KF5TSK, back to that.
Very good, Burl. Yeah, I agree. And I just realized in the process, all you Echolink folks out there, I didn't give you a chance to check in. I will do so at the end of this group, and you get to make comments, including disparaging comments about myself. That would be me, Tom. Okay, Burl, very good. You obviously thought it was cheap stuff, and you're probably not off by too much. KC5OZT, Miss Carolyn, what did you think about the plot?
Pretty much agree with everybody. It seemed sort of juvenile, maybe a cheap TV show type. And Yeah, I know. Okay, the space flight. No zero G. You expect to see stuff floating around. And then the way to get your supply ship down, it looked to me like it was tumbling instead of going to be landing, and then of course setting out a trail of balloons. That it didn't make sense. Really. And you could have just used a radio beacon, but there's a little bit of nobility in two of them giving their lives to save their companions, and even though it was sort of a crazy way they did it, and then it was nice. At that time, the Russian and the American finally working together to get back home, and so that was sort of nice, in that era. But yeah, it was a pretty weak plot. K50ZT.
Thank you, Miss Carolyn. I don't disagree. All right, let's see. Next up on the hit parade, Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November, KG5PM, and James, your comments on this fine film, plot-wise.
I thought the plot was very simplistic of a low-budget movie. It looked like a lot of the background was just painted to me, from what I could see of it, and there wasn't much. The actual plot, I was kind of wondering if it wasn't a fantasy about going to the moon later on. And the basic thing I got out of it was they were trying to collect some Martian soil and stuff off the moon, and then once they got up there, then they found out the bad guys were up there also, which I don't think they knew about in the beginning. But just acted like a low budget movie. KG5PM in, back to the net.
James, yeah, I understand completely. I had a similar problem. Lack of plot, lack of movie, but that's okay. N5HYP, Tom, I'm sure you have comments about this movie plot-wise and more, but go ahead. N5HYP, plot.
This is N5HYP. I switched over to Echolink so that at least I could be heard. Well, what can I say about the plot? Well, the plot plodded along. The plot moved along pretty good for a plotting plot. It was a plotting from the beginning to the end, and that's really about it. This was absolutely bad for the time frame, coming out the same time as 2001, coming out at the same time when so many people. It was exploitive in that obviously it was coming up on the Apollo missions, and everybody was all excited about the space stuff. So let's go do a space movie. Let's go beyond the moon. Let's go to Mars. Let's go one name actor and one other guy who kind of sort of had a little bit of name. I thought it really interesting that IMDb only had 2 pictures for the cast because nobody had a clue who any of the rest of these people were. Now, yeah, we're talking about characters, but plod, yes. It just plodded along, and it was hard to watch because of that. Back to net. This is N5HYP.
All right, thank you, Tom. And we're getting some feedback here again. Oh, wait a minute. I'm getting feedback. Turn that down. Okay, good. So let's see. Or bad, I guess, really. Yeah, I agree about the plot. I have my comments. W5EBB, David in Dallas, your comments on plot.
In a word, I would say the plot was spacey. I mean, it was just weird. And, starting from the opening title sequence, you had the quick flashes of a variety of visuals and backed by the undertone of the bizarre song, No More Tears. It was just a strange way, but kind of set the tone for the movie. Psychotronic comes to mind. You had a lot of mixtures of repetition of scenes and listening to the voices in the astronauts' heads, repeating what they said to their wives before they left. Slow motion, lingering scenes to kind of reinforce the bizarre nature of the aliens once you got to Mars. And throughout it, you had this electronic dialogue, I would call it, of beeps, the 2 hertz beeping on the Bulova clock that just went on and on and on for the countdown. So plot-wise, the plot was not as significant as the impression that I think it was intended to yield. And it did that well in its weird way, I guess. But plot-wise, I think this whole thing, okay, Alice was the widow of the astronaut, the U.S. astronaut Nick. And, she was just overwhelmed with anxiety about, wanting this to be his last trip and telling him not to be a hero. And what does he do? He goes and is a hero at the very end. So these are the kind of anxieties that she would have in her mind. So here's my conclusion about the plot. This was all Alice's nightmare. Alice was having a dream, and this is what that movie was. And when she woke up from it, which we didn't see, it was like Pam waking up to see Bobby Ewing, and he's fine. W5EBB.
Thank you, David. And you brought up something that I had not thought of about this film, but I will hold my comments until later. So I'm going to go to Echolink. I do have some comments, but I'm going to allow an actual check-in. I was a very bad person. Echolink, please check in now.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy, and Sherman. I did not get a chance to see the movie.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J near Weatherford. I only saw a third of it.
Point if you have comments. I have KG5BZWJ over near Weatherford. He did not see the movie, or he's just listening in. And then there was one comment from KN5 IMS, and let's see here. He says, although I didn't see the movie, here's my comment. The color was the best part of the movie. It was realistic. Reds were red, blues were blue, and really made the movie worth watching. And he says that, and I guess in a way he's right. Yeah, it was brilliant Technicolor in the film. I had no problems with it either. Okay, let's see. I do have comments on this movie. As far as plot, no, there was no plot. I thought it was quite interesting. There was a lot of Apollo stuff in it to filler. AS 201, 202, 203, you don't know what that, or SA 201, 202, 203. Those are early Apollo missions unmanned, and that's what they used freely in the thing, and that took me out of it, much like 555-1212 does when you see that as a telephone number. I see that in movies, and this was one of those moments. More than one, probably a dozen of those. From that standpoint, it was slow plotting to me. I'd never seen this before. A lot of times films are picked either by you or from me, and they're blind. They are movies that have a plot, and I just go, okay, we're going to watch this thing because it's available. But I have no idea if it's any good. I just do them blindly. This was a bad movie to pick. It has Darren McGavin in it, Kojak, or whatever his name is. That's great. It's wonderful. It's fantastic. And he does his bits of business, but that comes up later. I'll hold off on that. The storyline is, and I agree, it doesn't make any sense. What's the deal? What are they doing? Why are they going there? Did we conquer the moon? Did we not? I don't know. That's a really weird part. But W5EVE, David, made an interesting comment along the way. What was going on in 1968? Well, when this film came out, I will tell you this quite authoritatively, in 1967, the Apollo 1 fire took place. And we lost 3 astronauts. Gus Grissom, Chaffee, and, oh, jeez, I can't remember. Oh, I should know this, but I can't right now because it's late at night. In the process of that, Ed White, Chaffee, I still can't remember. But in any case, the long and short of it is this, is that this movie came out before Apollo 7 and after Apollo 1 fire. So some of the storyline having to do with the astronauts' wives and their concern was very much on the mind of the public at the time, regardless of whether this movie made any sort of a splash or not. That makes a difference, I guess, and creates a heavier impact than you might expect from movies 50 years later than the reset. So the gravitas with that, plot-wise, is a little heavier than might be expected for an audience today. That's just a guess on my part, but, you know, in the whole point of the thing is that Ed White, Gus Grissom, and Roger Chaffee. I finally figured it out. I remember now. It just comes from mind. So I think that the film itself, from the standpoint of at least the first half of the film, I kind of get it. I like the goofiness of the thing. I like the countdown. I thought that was kind of cool in a way. It created kind of this spacey thing, and then it has this distracting music in the process. That part kind of worked, and it did not. That helped to forward or retard the plot. I'm not sure. But it was interesting. It was different than what I expected. Sort of like Westerns are redefined all the time. They keep getting a new look and a new feel. In this case, they were trying to redefine science fiction films from the 50s that had this very straightforward linear progression. but in this case, they created sort of a not so coherent approach to how the plot should work or somehow make things happen in a way that is engaging. Those are my comments on plot. Let me go ahead and go to the top of, well, let me go ahead and ask if there's any additional check-ins. Tonight's movie is Mission Mars from 1968. Anyone like to check in? You don't necessarily have to have seen the motion picture, just would like to comment or otherwise say you're out there. We'd like to know you're there. Please come now with your call sign name. Let me know if you saw the movie or not. It's okay if you didn't. Actually, it's probably a bonus. Nobody. Let's go to the top of the list. N5BB, Bill, what did you think about the characterization?
This is N5BB. First, I'm going to have to pull a correction on you, Tom. You're mixing up Kojak and Kolchak. So, Kojak was actor Telly Savalas, TV from 1973 to 1978. Darren McGavin was the Night Stalker, Kolchak, 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 the Night Stalker from 1974 to 1975. Terry Savalas had no hair. As you saw in this movie, Darren McGavin had great hair. So I'm sorry, you mixed those two up. Okay. I got to talk as far as characterization and actors and actresses. So the commander, Darren McGavin, his wife was played by Heather Hewitt. So Edith Blazewick, that was a character, was played by Heather Hewitt. Heather Hewitt was Miss Vermont 1957, 11 years earlier. And in 1968, the year this movie came out, she appeared on the cover of Cosmopolitan. She was a big model. I mean, she was all over Cosmopolitan and Playboy and all kinds of other stuff. So she was a real glamour model. And so that's something about that character. She was obviously trying to fool Darren into her getting a baby, whether or not he came back. And, of course, it was a really stupid plot thing to make some noise in the transmission, so he didn't clearly understand that he had a baby on his way back. Other characterization things, Darren McGavin was a self-centered, the Colonel Mike Blazewick, self-centered, he loved his hair, a self-centered guy out there that was just doing the right thing. Nick Adams, who played Nick Grant, was the guy that at the end, near the end of the movie, he went in and stupidly committed suicide, essentially. I don't really understand what good it did. Somehow it allowed them to take off, but it wasn't obvious what he did. He just went over and got zapped, and suddenly they could take off. Made no sense at all. Duncan, who was George DeVries, was the guy that early on tried to shoot the bad guys, and he got zapped. He didn't have a chance to do much. The other wife was Alice Grant, Nick Grant's wife. So Nick was the one that was the hero. Alice was his wife, who was convinced he was going to die, which he did. Most of the people in this movie, other than Darren McGavin, most of the rest of them were in one or two movies, maybe, or very little more than that. The people who wrote the movie wrote, I believe, two movies, maybe. The music was done by a group that was around for 1 year. It was really a one-hit wonder of the whole thing was. Let's see, anything else about characters? Oh, Michael Debusset, who played Cliff Lawson, the guy who was the NASA controller, the guy that talked to them. He was in like one other thing. Essentially, this is the only thing he did, and I don't know. I guess they did have characterization. I'll agree with that. So it's not like they didn't have characterization. They did have a plot. There was a little love, or human family relationship subplot. But so I'm not necessarily saying that was horrible. But the characters were pretty thin. There was not to them. For instance, the Russians all had no characterization at all. And by the way, why were those three Russian astronauts floating in space? Why did they happen to go past them? There was no explanation for that at all. So, anyway, N5BB.
This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. We are discussing Mission Mars from 1968 with Darren McGavin and everyone else. It's really something. Okay, let's see. Next on the list is NT5TM. Tony, you and Aaron, tell us about... Oh, wait a minute. You didn't see the movie. So, do you have any comments about fine characterization in any film having to do with astronauts going to Mars with Russians being collided into U.S. spacecraft? Go ahead.
I've never been to Mars, but I do have a job, and I can definitely imagine that being pelted with Russian corpses would probably distract me from getting my job done effectively. There was a feature-length music video called The Lost Boys that came out in the 80s. It had vampires in it, and there was a character in it, a grandfather, who described a TV guide, but he didn't have a TV. He said that the younger characters, well, you're reading. Have my sympathies. I'll probably just be listening for the rest of the night. Tom, thank you very much, and good luck. Stay coherent. NT5, see ya.
Tony, I've scratched you off the list. I've got your DOR. You can ask me later what that is. DOR. I want your DOR. Well, I got it, Tony. I got your DOR. Next up, KF5TSK. Burrow, what did you think about the characterization on this fine motion picture? Please go ahead.
That's KF5TSK. The actors kind of play the part, but, it's real strange that you take off from Earth, you're laying down, but you take off from Mars and you're sitting at a desk. And you have to think, how big was the spaceship that, they show the room with them laying down, taking off, and it's almost like, the ship really had to be 3 to 4 times what, a NASA spacecraft could be. so many things just didn't seem real. He carries a sandwich on board, and I've got these freeze-dried meals, and it's like, oh, I just went to the deli and picked up a sandwich. Where'd you get that from? Well, really thin and not much there, and it's kind of exciting that we saw an alien, but nothing really, exciting about the movie. Can't find TSK back to that.
Okay, let's see, Burrow, there was the, oh, jeez, who did the sandwich? Alan Shepard? No, it was a Gemini mission, and I'm trying to remember who did the sandwich. I'm very bad right now. I can't remember. I've had a long day, so I forgot. But there was a Gemini mission when somebody snuck a roast beef sandwich up into orbit. I think that's what they're echoing there, is that they snuck it into space. It was the Gemini 3 mission. Okay, let's see. Next up, KC5OZT, Miss Carolyn. I know you're a huge fan of this motion picture. What did you think of the characterization?
For astronauts, they didn't seem well trained like what we think of, and calling CK every time to find out instructions on how to do something. And then I've already mentioned the balloon, but and then there's like I say, the noble part of sacrificing his life so that his friend could get back to Earth. That's sort of a good point. I mean, character-wise, and then the Russian waking up and speaking perfect English and sitting down and like he knew how to fly the ship. That seemed odd, But, and of course, you felt sorry for the wives at home, and, but, there wasn't much depth to the characters. I mean, other than nobility and sacrifice and stuff like that. It wasn't. They didn't get very deep into their characters. I guess that's the best way to explain it. KC5OZT.
Thank you, Miss Carolyn. And I'm writing notes like crazy. Next up, KG5PMN James. Your comments on characterization.
Much about the characterizations, and I thought maybe the women had a little bit better character than what most of the men did. It just seems like kind of a routine script on the characters. You have the leader, kind of the good guy leader, and then you have his cronies that kind of follow along with him, and then one of them always gets killed off in the beginning, and then the other one, well, I guess he sacrificed his life so he could take off, which really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I never really understood what the purpose of that round ball was. But the characters are pretty on the pretty much on the thin side, and just the acting was rather poorly done. I thought at E5PM in.
This is KE5ICX. Yeah, the purpose of the orb, who knows? That was weird. That's a plot thing, but you know what? I agree. Doesn't make any frickin' sense to me either. And I agree. The characterization on the women was better than the men. Okay, I defer because there's comments that I have later on. CMN. N5HYP, Tom, characterization, go ahead.
This is N5HYP. It really was bad too. I disagree. I just thought the characterization on the women, especially Darren McGavin's wife there, was, you know, when Bill mentioned that she was really a Cosmo girl, I went, oh, that fits. Person that can't act. They put in a role specifically to be eye candy, and that explains why what I got there. I was just amazed when I heard those first few dialogue sessions about the dream, and then them, her talking to him on the beach while they're carousing. It just was. What do I say here? It just was frustrating the way it was done. And overall, I don't think any character had any depth. This movie was really low budget. I think the only one who probably got paid very much was Darren McGavin, and I think he's capable of a lot more than what he did. Basically, he was put there for his looks, and that was it. So I'm pretty disgusted with this movie, and you haven't even gotten my comments about the music and special effects and stock footage and all that. That would be the next round. This is N5HYP.
Thank you, Tom. And yes, the delicious round is coming up. Technical, audio, music, everything that goes along with it. The best part of this net, which is tearing apart the mechanics, the nuts and bolts of the film. But we have to wait. W5EBB, David, what did you think of the characterization? Please come now.
It will be a challenge to just stick to characterization since there was very little of it. But there were a few things to mention. Darren McGavin, he just was saying his lines pretty much, and I don't know if that's the way his character was supposed to be, that he was just, directed to be in moments and not really be aware of any other factors. And at the beginning of the movie, where he and his wife or girlfriend are on the beach and rolling on the sands and embracing, I thought for a moment YouTube had inadvertently switched from Here to Eternity, and I was watching Burt Lancaster. But at the end of the movie, this is where it really just fell flat. When they've lifted off Mars, he and the Russian, and they're communicating back with the wives in Mission Control. About 2 sentences is given in honor of the U.S. astronaut who died, so that they could leave Mars. And then quickly, Mission Control says, "So how's the ship?" in a real upbeat manner. And then Darren McGavin and his wife effectively share goo-goo eyes over the laser comm. While the widow is just sitting there in shambles, most likely, and yet they're all upbeat. It's like there's no empathy or compassion from these characters. They're just enjoying themselves, and that really didn't make a whole lot of They were bizarre. They looked funny. The main one looked like a gummy bear tree, and then the sphere, which its purpose was, apparently they think that it was what was keeping the rocket from launching off of Mars. It was generating some kind of electromagnetic field that was holding the ship down, so it had to be destroyed before they could lift off. That was what was in the quote-unquote plot, I think. That's it for this round. W5EVB.
Thank you, David. You always bring more into it, and that's a good thing. Let's see. All right, KFI PDS, Miss Billy, you have comments. Oh, wait, you did not see the movie. Do you have any comments about bad science fiction plotless films? Will you be interested in seeing this film after what we've all said? We're hanging on our seats because you know math. Go ahead. KFI PDS, Miss Billy from KE5ICX.
Well, thanks, Tom. Yeah, I really don't have any comments since I didn't get to see it, so and I'm pretty tired, so I really don't have anything. I might watch it. It sounds definitely is, brought up some interesting comments. I just didn't get a chance to see it this week, so I might give it a try at some point. I'll keep it on my radar. This is KF5 PDS, back to net.
We always look forward to your comments on films, and you didn't get to see it, and that probably is a blessing in disguise. But just thought we'd ask, because you usually have good comments, and if you don't have to see the movie, just between you and me, you don't have to watch it. You're not missing anything. And this is KE5ICX, net control for tonight's Skynet. Let's see here. I think, let's see, KF5BZW, I think he was just listening in. We're at the bottom of the list. I'll go ahead and ask. Anybody would like to check in? Tonight's movie is Mission Mars from 1968. If you saw the movie or you didn't see the movie, you got comments about schlock science fiction. We are... if you check in now, would be a good time, because we're going to the next round, which is the technical part where we slay this beast. Anyone would like to check in, please come now with your call sign, your name. Let us know where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Echo 5, Romeo, 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 Highland Park.
Right, there were two stations. I get KE5RRR. I think that's Trevor. You can give me his name, but I'm pretty sure it's him, or Melvin, in Highland Park. And then there was another station, all noise. If you can increase power, please come now. For the second station, you did key the repeater, but it was all noise. So I'll tell you what, I'll give you one more chance. If you can increase power, I think you can hold the repeater maybe, but I hear no audio. It's all noise. Try one more time, and we'll see if we can get you in. Someone have him on reverse. I hear nothing. Hey, the station calling. We cannot hear you. I'm very sorry. We'd love to hear from you. Try next week. We'll see what happens. But you can key the repeater, but you can't really get in. And no audio. But I know you're out there. So thanks for listening in. We appreciate it. KE5RRR. Trevor, you got anything? Comments on Mission Mars, the movie that we watched this week. Go ahead.
Negative, sir. Just in for the count. KE5 triple R Romeo 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 back to net.
No problem, Trevor. No problem at all. Okay. This is KE5ICF, and net control for tonight's Skynet. Okay, here it comes, everybody. Here's your opportunity to vent. This has everything to do about the technical accuracy of this film. You can include music, you can include lighting, anything you want, because on this film, it's all there. So, let me start with N5BB, Bill in Irving. Your comments on the technical aspects of this fine film.
Oh boy. This is N5BB. Okie dokie. Well, as you've reminded us before, Tom, the music and sound is very important in movies. So, this movie had the most inappropriate music and sound I've ever heard, I think, in a movie, nearly. At places in the movie where horrible things were happening, they had upbeat music, as has been pointed out by somebody, Merle or somebody earlier. It was totally tasteless. So just try listening to the music if you watch the movie again. By the way, the movie was only 95 minutes. It wasn't all that long. And, if they made it for TV, they could probably cut it down to 60 minutes or something. Anyway, in addition to the very inappropriate music at certain places, they had this background noise that kind of sounded like an old computer printer, relay clacking, maybe a telephone office with relays, old relays, and maybe fax and telemetry sounds. So they had this running in the background sometime. It's supposed to make you think about computers and high-tech things, I guess. But a spacecraft wouldn't have sounded like that. Then they had this funky 1968 music score that I remember 1968, and that I was in middle school, and sure enough, it did sound like that. So it's definitely music for the time, but kind of funny. Also, sound travels in space. When anything goes on in space outside the spaceship, you hear it. This is the same year that 2001's Space Odyssey came up, was released. That was perfect with that. It was completely silent in a lot of key places because of that. This movie ignored science. Again, Darren McGevin's hair was too perfect, and they gave him a haircut on the spacecraft just to prove it. I really think that was inside joke. Again, weightlessness is ignored completely, except for one statement. No problem with weightlessness. There was one statement they made. But The spacecraft was way too big, has been commented on. They didn't really have to do much. It was regular. Oh, by the way, when they were on Mars and they were walking around, it was just like on Earth. Gravity was identical. Again, as I mentioned before, the radio signal from Mars to Earth is instantaneous. Doesn't have a 4 to 24 minute delay each way. As Carolyn pointed out, the supply ship movement was completely unbelievable. They just had it twisting around in an impossible manner. They didn't respond to G-forces correctly. I already mentioned the fact that the spacesuits were not protected, they weren't fully sealed. All their units were English units, feet and yards. They should have used metric. You notice how Darren McGavin is over there throwing a lot of switches. Anything he wants to do, like talk. He didn't have a microphone up close. He had some kind of speaker mic, but he had to throw switches like crazy just to make it seem like he was doing something. All the shots on Mars, if you look at them carefully, the shadows are very odd. It was obviously photographed at a very nearby, with very close lighting. They didn't even take any big efforts to make it seem like they were outside. So the shadows make it very obvious they're on a set. The balloons they put up, which somebody, I think Burl, was talking about, from a distance, they're way too large. When they pump them up, they're a couple feet in diameter. From a distance, they look like they're, 30 feet or more in diameter. That's stupid. Why did the Russian on Mars, why was he frozen? And why did he recover? That wasn't really good. Why did he freeze? Nobody said why. Why does Nick Grant have this long gun and he was pointing it around early in the movie on the spacecraft? That wasn't obvious at all. The aliens look fake with their red, funny eye thing. Why do they vaporize when shot? You notice when you shoot them, they kind of just, it's like the witch in the Wizard of Oz. They kind of dribble down and disappear and vaporize. Why did they name the aliens Galarians or something like that? Wasn't obvious. Why did they think the aliens were transmitting to some remote location? That wasn't obvious. Look at the landing struts on the spacecraft. They look dinky. They're not strong enough for a landing gear. How can electromagnetic fields keep them from taking off? That would be gravity. That's not electromagnetism. The big glowing ball, which, why would it be blinking light? It looks like it's covered with aluminum foil. Why does it blink? Why do they approach it and touch it? I mean, it's dangerous. Why do you do that? I don't know. It's just horrible. In fact, BB.
Thank you, Bill. And I feel your frustration, and I empathize. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet. We are talking about the fine, wonderful, fantastically Mars from 1968. I am going down the list. NT5. Oh no, he left. KFI TSK Burl in Dallas. What did you think of the technical, the musical, the fantastical for this fine film?
That's KFI TSK. One of the things that stuck in my mind was that missile they were on. I kept thinking, is that a Redstone? It's like, that was a 1950s or late 50s missile. Everything was out of place. They're, supposedly their spacesuits, they looked like they were just sweatshirts. I was like, it's like they didn't carry anything. walking around with a toolbox. You know, you know, you know, don't have to worry about gravity. You know, oh, we can breathe on Mars. You know, you have this strange-looking alien that you don't really see it. You know, it's kind of like in the background. You know, we're gonna. You know, I don't know if they how they created it, but it didn't look real. KFI-TSK back in there, we probably spent too much time on this after all anyway.
All right, thank you, Burl. And no, we can never spend too much time on bad movies because we've spent more time on bad movies than anybody who has ever spent time on bad movies in the history of bad movies. And this one falls into place. So put a hat on that says, I love bad movies and I'm not afraid. Although you should be. But that's okay. Next up, KC5OZT, Miss Carolyn, technical. You know technical. Please tell us, what do you think of this film, technically?
I won't be as disrespectful to say a joke, but, okay, the music, yes, that was pretty bad, and I noticed, apparently it was whoever was in charge of the music. I don't remember if he actually gave a title to the song, or if the was apparently his brother. I don't remember the name, but so that might have been why he didn't care about what it sounded like. But and then of course the weightlessness and now somebody mentioned how that astronaut was frozen. Well, now wasn't the other American that was killed first, didn't the beam sort of show him to look almost frozen, if I remember right? And if so, what happened to him? You know, but it seemed like Bill mentioned, of course, the landing gear seeming so small, but it seemed like that whole ship looked smaller from the outside than it did from the inside. They didn't pay any attention to little details like that. The Mars, it didn't, of course, we've gotten picked, you know, to see what it looks like now, and back then they weren't totally sure what it looked like, so I guess we can forgive that, but they just came down in this rough place, you know, and I think that's all I can think of right now, so, but, neon effects, KC5OZT.
Thank you, Miss Caroline. Don't disagree. This is KE5ICX with the Afterglow Movie Net. We are talking about the movie Mission Mars from 1968. Let's see. Next, KG5PMM. James, you have comments on the technical aspects, the musical, anything that we've not covered so far. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
I thought the technical aspects were pretty much a go. Wrote a couple of notes down about it. I thought that the face masks, when they were blasting off on Earth, reminded me a lot of a firefighter's air pack. I don't know how much they actually used air packs back then, but they do now. But it reminded me of an air pack. The helmet, when they got up on Mars, helmets reminded me of motorcycle helmets I rode that I used back in that era. You know, with the face mask and everything else, you could see their chin below the helmet, and helmets weren't sealed. And like they super glued a hose on the back of the helmet just to make it look like they were getting oxygen from an air pack. I also thought it was kind of amazing that the guy was sitting there eating, looked like eating a bowl of cereal with a spoon in the spaceship. And they mentioned something about the temperature. I don't know that they ever decided if it was summer up there or if it was winter up there, but for what they were wearing going out on Mars, if it was as cold as what they said it was going to be, nobody could live in that. 85 p.m. in.
Thank you, James. I don't disagree, but I will reserve my comments. N5HYP, Tom, I think you're still out there. What did you think of the technical aspects of this fine film?
It was a thrown-together college plot. This is N5 college movie, as is N5HYP, and it was it felt like something that probably could have come out of somebody's film class. They threw no money at this whatsoever, and I agree with the talk about the music. It was really dumb. Boy, when that opening credit music came, you knew this was going to be horrible, because it was absolutely everything horrible about generic 60s music. It had it was pretty bad. I completely went nuts with the stock footage when the stock footage of the booster separating was run backwards to go along with a docking. At that point, I lost it. I could not believe that they went to that extent to use the stock footage. At that point, I knew I was done, and I promptly fell asleep. So, that's all I have. Back to Net from N5HYP.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, I can tell you're done. And I won't call upon you to provide information on this fine film, even though I'm sure you've been tortured in the past. W5EBV, David, your comments, any comments, technical, musical, anything having to do with this fine film. This is your last chance. Go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you, from the beginning of the movie, I thought maybe this was written, produced, and directed by Timothy Leary. Psychedelic, I guess, is the best way to put it. You know, just the imagery and the conflagration of visuals and sounds and all that. I think we're pretty much unanimous in agreeing that this, on the whole, was not a pleasant experience to watch, nor was it a pleasant experience after we watched it, as our ranker kind of indicates right now. The music, groovy, man, groovy. You know, you did have it kind of a combination of the Monkees, a little Jimi Hendrix, and Ron Burgundy jazz flute. I mean, what a combination that is. But, you know, honestly, though, in some scenes it kind of worked. Like, the spacecraft, when it was had the supply ship docked and it was on its way to Mars, it had its own theme song. It was comprised of a bass guitar riff and 3 notes of a sine wave, equally spaced intervals, played very fast. I won't intonate those now because you'll probably dream about it if I did, or it would cause you to have particular dreams. Some of the other things that haven't been mentioned, the seat belts on the swivel office chairs. What good is a seat belt going to do you? You're just going to be spinning around, and I don't think that the chairs were actually nailed down to the floor either. Another really kind of interesting visual effects, when the supply ship was docked to the capsule flying through space, it had a red tip, a white body, and a tan end, and it looked like a flying lit cigarette. And the capsule, as it was landed on Mars, looked like a moonshine still. It didn't look very space capsule-ish. Now, I thought the effects at the beginning of the movie were okay and almost realistic, probably because they used a lot of stock footage. The Earth launch, descent, stage separation looked realistic enough. The docking maneuver, communications with mission control, they seemed believable. But it quickly went downhill as soon as they approached Mars and for the rest of the movie. Just one other comment about the character. Nick must not have ever read The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, because if you see the Eye of Sauron opening up, it's probably not a good idea to Sally Saunter walk right into it. Another big contest during this era wasn't just the space race, but it was also the contest between the wet look or the dry look. Commercials everywhere, Brill Cream versus Gillette, the dry look. And obviously the dry look won. And they had cases of this for Darren McGavin and the other astronauts to use along the trip. It could also be used as an alternative propulsion system if you chain those enough of them together. Now, obviously, the Russian went for the freeze-dried look, which wasn't very appealing. But it's interesting the parallel between the freeze-dried eggs. You put them in a pot, add pressure and heat, ta-da! It comes back to life as a real egg, just like the cosmonaut. W5EBB.
Good. Nobody could say it better. Thank you for your comments on all of that. Okay, let's see. Miss Billy didn't see the movie, so I'm going to give her relief. Let's see, I'm checking IMS. He doesn't have any comments. Oh, he does. Oh, here it goes. He says the characters sound a lot like Whoopi Goldberg in The Telephone, a movie she starred in and then tried to prevent its release. When she was asked about it during a later interview, she said something, and it starts with SH, and that's it. So that came from IMS, and I think he's gone. He's gone now. Gone. Gone. All right, we're reaching the top of the hour, like they say, 11:56. We usually end this thing at midnight. Anyone have any additional comments they want to bring? Please come now.
KF5TSK.
5BB.
Hey, we've got two. KF5TSK, Burl, your comments.
Well, you know, the spaceship that the American astronauts blasted out with the mask itself was the same mask that the Russian, the freeze-dried Russian, was wearing. It's like, they were really cheap. You know, they both had the same thing. You know, never would America and Russia buy the same thing. TF5 TSK back to net.
Roger, Roger. Yeah, I agree with you on that. There's a whole thing has to do with how you know, things are done in space and science fiction, and I think a lot of it has to do with simply you got to make it work, and we ran out of a budget. And I'll stop there. N5BB, your final comments.
Thanks, Tom. This is N5BB. Again, most of you, although I think I forgot to send it to you, Burl, but for most of you listening, I sent you an email, 2 emails here about an hour ago. Unfortunately, the first one had an incorrect link, so look at the second email. And you can listen to the theme song. A couple of you commented about the theme song. You can listen to it. It was released separately. The name of it is No More Tears. And the lyrics are pretty meaningless. It's horrible. I wrote down some of them. I don't want to repeat them. They're just blather. The group was a group of 17 to 19-year-old kids. The main person in charge of it is the director of the music department of the Queens, New York Junior High School. Okay? Junior high school music director. The other song they're known for is Follow the Piper, which was a Girl Scout song. And I've got links to all these things. You can listen to them on YouTube. This was a one-year wonder by a band that just came and it went, called the Forum Quorum. You got to remember, this 1968 was right when Up With People was getting ready to be done, and it was all that kind of music, okay? And again, it was very inappropriately placed in the movie. Again, most of the people in this movie, other than Darren, had no other movies they dealt with. This is like either 1 or 2 movies, and that was it. Nobody would hire them. N5BB clear.
Some comments on the technical parts of the film. There was tons and tons and tons of NASA footage, everything I recognized from the 200 series Saturn 1B stuff, 201, 202, 203. Yeah, I'm a nerd. All of that was presented, and it was presented in a completely incoherent way because physically those rockets were so different visually, but it didn't matter because, hey, it's stock footage. So, in any case, I thought overall it was the music. Let me finish on this. The music was incongruous with the overall look and feel of the film. It didn't make any sense, but there have been plenty of films like that in the end. So I'm okay with it. The first part of the film actually was pretty good. The last part of the film was pretty terrible. The playoff and how you're going to end the film, to me, was very not satisfactory. The science, the orb or whatever the hell it was, didn't work out. It reminded me later on of Space 1999, where they did the same thing. The conclusion of the story was so not satisfactory that you went, what did we just see? And then you go, oh, the music's great. Oh, the special effects are great. In this case, special effects sucked. The story, the music sucked. And overall, the whole thing sucked. So, it sucked. Yeah, that's my opinion of Mission Mars from 1968. So, with that, at 12:03, we're about to end this net. I have picked out, yes, I did this, and don't blame me, it's not my fault, UFOs, the true story of flying saucers from 1956. Project Blue Book, kids. Project Blue Book. And it's available if you go to facebook.com, Afterglow Movie, 2 words, Afterglow Movie. You can go ahead and sign up there, and you can find out what the next movie is in the links. Otherwise, just go to YouTube and find UFOs.
Repeater, timeout for 15 seconds.
On the air, first and third Sunday, 7 p.m., W5FC.
Out. Timer reset. Repeater enabled.
That was a very long timeout in 5BB.
I'm sorry, and we've got to figure it out. It's supposed to be like 15 seconds, but it's my fault because I timed it out, and it was after tonight's net. In any case, UFOs, the true story of flying saucers, 1956. And you can join us on Facebook. Go to Afterglow Movie, 2 words, Afterglow and Movie. And you can check in or send an email to KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray at yahoo.com, and I'll put you on the list. That's it from me. I won't do it again. KE5ICX, I'm clear. Really.
It should take a radio transmission to go between Mars and Earth. 140 million miles distance divided by 186,000 miles per second would yield a time travel one way of 12.5 minutes. W5EBV.
Yeah, David, that's the average. But of course, it could be much shorter or much less. But it's always going to be well over 4 minutes each way. And obviously, it was only no more than a couple of seconds in the movie. It was the most unrealistic science I've ever seen. And 5BB, and by the way, I found the movie very easily on YouTube. UFOs, The True Story of Flying Saucers, 1956, and 5BB.
Sure, it'll be fantastic.
Wouldn't do that. 5BB. It's been a long time since I've seen those movies or TV shows.
I gotta tell this group something. I would like to do TV series if they're available. I wouldn't mind doing Space 1999, I don't know, UFO, a few other series if they're available online. I don't want to make people buy stuff for no reason. But what do you think?
W5FC.
Yeah, I was just seeing some reference here to the time tunnel. And, you know, kind of a different one. That's kind of interesting. And there's lots of other series you could do, too. We might think about that. Anyway, good night. We will talk to you later. KE5ICX. By the way, we missed you today, but we had plenty of people there at the Boy Scout Electronics Merit Badge. There were plenty of people, so don't feel bad. We got along without you. And 5BB clear.
All right, thank you, Bill. And yeah, I did feel bad about that because I enjoyed doing it. And there have been enough distractions over the last couple of weeks that I kind of got discombobulated, and I didn't realize that it was this weekend. And that's not normally something I do, but really it isn't. Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come or something that I can't keep track of stuff, but I really did lose track of it. I hope everything went well, and I hope you guys had a good time, and I hope the kids learned something. But yeah, I'll be there for the Radio Merit Badge, I think is the next thing coming up. I am committing to it. Hopefully I don't go senile in the meantime. KE5ICX.
You and me too, Tom, in 5BB. Yeah, well, Alexander was there, and Stephen, another one of our scouts that's grown older, and they both had great fun helping the kids and everything. So we had plenty of help there. The room wasn't too big, so we couldn't have taken too many more people, or it would have overfilled the room. So we did excellent. It was all fun, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the Radio Merit Badge one. Talk to you later. KE5ICX and 5BB clear.
ICX.
Good night, Bill, and 7-3. And Miss Carolyn, go ahead.
It's not the TV series. series. There's one I always loved was, okay, you remember I think it was ABC had the movie of the week. It'd be about an hour and a half made-for-TV movie. And there was one called The People. That was the name. It's based on a whole series of short stories, but and William Shatner played the Earthling in it. It's basically people from another planet that had come to Earth and settled in a town. You'd have to look to see it or read it. The author's Zena, Zenna Henderson. She had a whole bunch of short stories called The People Stories, but this was they made one of them into this TV movie, and like I said, William Shatner's in it. But that might be something to consider. KC50ZT.
Caroline, The People movie of the week. I will check and see if it's online. Do you know if it is?
No, I haven't seen it since it was on, but I've got the book of her short stories, in fact, there's a bunch of good stories in there, but I don't know, it's just one I remember that an impression. KC50ZT.
Hey, Caroline. I've seen many ABC movies of the week on YouTube, but I haven't found The People yet.
I'm not sure if that was the exact title or not, but like I say, Zena Henderson wrote all these short stories, and they just called them The People. They were from another planet that had been on Earth, I think, for quite a while, and I don't know, a few stories maybe, but no, that was a pretty good TV movie anyway. KC50ZT.
I found it on Wikipedia. I'll send Tom a link to the Wikipedia page, and I'll see if I can find it on YouTube. Inside BB.
You ought to read the stories too, short stories. They're great. KC50ZT, and I think I'm going to be clear. KC73, everybody. KC50ZT.